Hey guys, Nicholai I'm here, back at you with another response video. This time we're going to be watching Canon and Creed and his video Top Apologist Converts to Orthodoxy, My Thoughts. I haven't watched this yet, and so I don't know exactly what he's going to say or if he's going to say anything of substance. There's still a lot that I don't know, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to Cleave. Now, I did have a chance to kind of watch a little bit of Joshua Scooping react, and Joshua Scooping was basically, I mean, it's the same lame arguments that he always makes, and they're not particularly impressive. So we're gonna see if Canon and Creed, who has an upcoming um, response to Rock and Sand by Father Josiah Trenum, and so what I intend to do is I intend to do a live with um, on Canon and Creed's video for that. So look forward to that coming soon, guys. Like I said, I'm working on some more member exclusive videos. Some of them are going to be more oriented towards very specific theological points, and they're going to be a little bit more scripted. But I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get on with it.
Recently blindsided by Ben from Cleave to Antiquity announcing his conversion to Orthodoxy. And I want to say from the outset that I love Ben. I have zero ill will toward him, and I wish him nothing but the best. I'm not here to besmirch his character or choices, and I applaud his willingness to follow his conscience. I've also long said, including to Ben, that I'm not one for internet drama, and I hate spending my time on such things, but since he has been on this channel, many have obviously reached out asking for my thoughts. So it's only right that I share where I stand for this audience. If you are new here, welcome to Canon and Creed. My name is Miles, and I'm simply a lay theology nerd that also happens to be passionate about historic Protestant faith practice and piety, so I make video essays on various subjects that fall under that banner. But today is anomalous. In this video, I want to share a bit of my background, why I started Canon and Creed, and then address some of the questions that people have had regarding Ben's conversion.
I'm not exactly sure what your background has to do with Ben's conversion.
And I promise that all of these things are related and are relevant to the subject in focus.
Okay, well, I will trust you on this one, all right?
So I was raised in a Seventh-day Adventist household by a Seventh-day Adventist pastor, and
Okay.
considered myself a Seventh-day Adventist for roughly 2 decades.
I cannot stand these ads. Can't do it. All right, we'll pause the video and you guys will see this. Just skip ahead. All right, let's continue.
For roughly 2 decades. About 14 years ago, I had a profound encounter with the gospel when a friend shared it with me over lunch, and it left a lasting mark on me. Upon coming to Christ, I had a burning desire to get to the bottom of what God had done in my life, and this led me to being passionate about apologetics and being able to give a defense of the faith that I now so greatly cherished. And this really was the birth of my passion for theology proper. It gave birth to a process of personal study that really hasn't stopped to this day. I began doing street evangelism as well about 8 years ago.
Yeah, so my immediate reaction to street evangelism is that having experience with it, being from the Reformed background and even doing it myself and taking Way of the Master courses from Ray Comfort and all of the various watching Abolish Human Abortion videos where they would share the gospel, right, and convict people's hearts. And so I'm very familiar with that. I'm not a big fan of it anymore. I don't think it's effective, and I haven't seen it be particularly effective, frankly. So we'll continue.
Which really exposed me to just how much there is to know about the faith, resulting in a need to be as widely brushed up as I could be, not just on my own beliefs, but also on the belief systems of others. And this eventually accumulated in my desire to reach Seventh-day Adventists, my kin of origin, if you will. I saw a real lack of materials out there for people that were in the situation I was in, and felt there was a big need for content aimed at Christians to better equip them to be able to reach Seventh-day Adventists, which resulted in my starting of Answering Adventism, an apologetics website and YouTube channel aimed at helping Christians and former Adventists better understand the complex worldview and framework of Seventh-day Adventism, almost working as a translator for Christians, if you will. And that was also my introduction to YouTube 4 years ago. I had a roadmap for that platform and a place that I wanted to get it to that was evergreen for any person to come across at any point in the future and still find value. And that has been achieved. In the background, though, I'd been engaging in online theological discussions for years, even long before YouTube, and a new question began to burn in me. Where are the inward-facing Protestant apologetics? Most of what you see out there is external facing. It is focused on contra Roman Catholicism or contra Orthodoxy, where people are engaging or speaking to the other side of the aisle. But who
That's not entirely true. My entire adult life has been Calvinist and Reformed background people like Todd Friel, R.C. Sproul, Paul Washer, John Piper, John MacArthur, basically calling out other Protestant sects for their lack of what they would call lowercase orthodoxy. So I'm not exactly sure what he means by that.
was speaking to our own side? Who was equipping Protestants in their own heritage so they wouldn't be easy pickings for conversion? And I didn't see enough of that, so I decided to do something about it. Now, I say all of this not to talk about myself, but to be transparent about who I am and why this channel exists. I'm not your pastor, I'm not a scholar, and I don't try to act like I am. It's actually why I cite so many primary sources here, even though I know that that's going to hurt video performance. Most people want entertainment, e-drama, dumpster fires, hot takes, clips. But that's just not what Canon and Creed is about. Here's the mission statement of Canon and Creed that's posted here on the YouTube channel.
I'll pause it so you guys can read it real quick, but I'm going to skip past it.
It's not Roman Catholics or the Orthodox, etc. And it's also not going to be limited to inter-Christian tradition disputes, but it will also entail content regarding Islam, Unitarianism, the American cults of the 19th century, and more, all of which the Protestant heritage has something to say in response to. And my goal is to share advanced and sometimes complex information with you all in the most easy to digest way, in hopes that Protestants will get a clearer and fuller picture of the rich heritage in which we exist, so you can better spot when it is and isn't being represented accurately, but also be more confident in your Protestantism. So while I'm not a pastor or a scholar, I do want it to be known that I am a member in good standing of a PCA church, and my presbyters, including my family's ruling elder, are familiar with this channel, and I am accountable and submitted to them in accordance with the scriptures.
Well, actually, your own faith tradition believes in right of private judgment. So ultimately, you can't be bound to any decision that your elder or teacher makes, and you can't be bound to any interpretation of scripture or canon or creed. That is explicitly clear in the Reformers, and therefore your conscience cannot be bound to any of those things, and thus it's completely arbitrary that you decide to submit to him and not someone else. So like if you were a Southern Baptist or independent fundamental Baptist, you could say the same thing, but that's not relevant because you can just hop, skip, and jump to someone else and claim I'm under their authority. There is no continuity or structure or foundation stone in which they can basically say you're anathema, right? You're cut off. There is nothing like that in Protestantism, because otherwise there wouldn't be 40,000 different Protestant denominations. And yes, I know sometimes that's an over dramatized number, but I think it's actually fairly accurate if you really break it down. But we're not going to get into that debate here.
So I just want that to be upfront and so people understand where I'm coming from. Which brings us back to Ben's conversion. I don't claim to know his motives, his heart, or his conscience. That's between him and Christ. But this is a case study in why Canon and Creed exists, and it's why I don't recommend non-denominational churches. Friends, you
He's blaming this on non-denominational churches, as if non-denominational churches are not just a byproduct of Protestant sola scriptura and right of private judgment.
you have to know why you are a Protestant. If someone asks you on the spot, why are you a Protestant? Can you give an answer?
Well, come on, we've all watched Cleave to Antiquity's content. We all have. He was able to give very thorough responses consistently for why he was a Protestant. Okay, so I don't think that this framing is correct already.
Be honest. If not, you are prime real estate for conversion. You cannot remain a Protestant by proxy. It has to be because of conviction, not convenience. And like many others, I've had to wrestle with the temptation to convert. Like I said, I've been engaging theology for a long time. And folks, when you do street evangelism, you encounter it all. I've encountered Hare Krishnas, Hindus, Muslims, Roman Catholics, Greek Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, Jehovah's Witnesses, Seventh-day Adventists.
Brother, Greek and Eastern Orthodox are the same thing. If you can't even get that right, how do you expect to actually engage with us? It's so common for people to do this, and I don't blame him necessarily, but it's like it does get irritating after a while to have to correct these basic assumptions over and over and over and over again. And I imagine I'm going to be doing a lot of that in the live when we cover his video on rock and sand.
Adventists, Mormons, you encounter it all. You don't know what you're going to get. And
I can say that is accurate to street evangelism, but also like I've never seen a street evangelist change tactics just because of who they're talking to. It always boils down to the same core kind of prepackaged line of argumentation. Always. I've never seen any be as dynamic as they need to be. They always try and find a way to lead it back to these core, like basically train tracks so they can lead them down the logic train of their theology and then hopefully get them to say the sinner's prayer or give their life to Christ and then hopefully just tell them, no, now you need to go attend a good church. Well, what's a good church? And then you just throw them into the deep end of the pool and never talk to them ever again.
if you think your heart is racing engaging online, go out on the streets and start engaging with people. And trust me, when you don't know what you're going to get and the objections you're going to hear, it challenges you.
Hold on. Okay, there we are.
Going to hear, it challenges you. It's a lot. And I resonate with the people who want truth at all costs. And if you haven't gone through that trial yet of feeling the pressure to convert as a Protestant, you will. And when it comes, you need to know which issues are the true forks in the road and study them deeply. For me, that process has left me more assured than ever in historic Protestantism, specifically in the Reformed tradition. That's why I say at the beginning of almost
well, notice he gives away the he gives it away right away. The Reformed tradition. I thought we were Schola Scriptura, brother, right? I thought we were only doing Scripture alone. I thought we were only doing but it's always adding more and more and more. There's always like asterisks next to these simple like rhetorical devices that we always hear from whether it's evangelicals, non-denominational, Baptists, etc. And by the way, I've spoken, and over the years, I've spoken with probably hundreds of people from various Protestant denominations. Almost all of them, except for the liberal kind of bent people, almost all of them give nearly identical arguments for the core Reformation theologies. But even when they contradict each other, they still give the same core arguments: faith alone, by grace alone, and all these other kind of just rhetorical flourish devices.
Every video, this is the channel where we are bullish on historic Protestant faith practice and piety, and I mean that. Now, when something like this happens,
this is a lot of prepping for him to actually respond to anything that, like, okay, so he's going prior knowledge of events, guess vetting process, will I remove the video? So basically, this is him just. Is this entire video just him basically just denouncing Cleave, but trying to be nice about it at the beginning? Like, is he actually going to respond to anything that Cleave said?
it naturally raises questions, and I want to answer those as directly as I can. So here's some of the main ones that people have asked, and then I also have a couple comments that I just want to make sure are out there for transparency. People have asked if I knew about this in advance, and no, obviously I did not. If I had, I would not have been collaborating with Ben in the fashion that we did. It was always more conversational than rigorous, but still. It would have been one thing for him to step back publicly and say, you know, I need to work through some things, and then after some time to come back and say, hey, you know, I've had a change of heart in X, Y, and Z area. No harm, no foul. Totally get it. But he continued making pro-Protestant content and...
Well, if you listen to his conversion story, the straw that broke the camel's back, and he's been wrestling through these things publicly very, very obviously, even though he was defending the Protestant position, he had moved in certain ways towards certain positions of ours, not just Orthodox, but you could claim Catholic as well. But he also made robust defenses. So this is actually a dishonest framing, because Cleave made it very clear that it was actually a fairly sudden thing that happened. It was a intervention from the Holy Theotokos that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and then from there everything else just kind of fell into place for him. And a lot of it was like the crack that broke the dam. Once it's out, it's over. And I've experienced this myself. Once you get over that last kind of like resistance, basically all the theology just kind of coheres together, and it's a very rapid thing. So he could have recorded these things where he was still fairly confident in his Protestant positions, and Protestantism in general, and then finally made the decision. This is just a argument from personal incredulity. He finds it unbecoming the way that he approached this situation, but there was never going to be a good way to do it. Because if he had stopped producing any content at all, people would speculate and be like, "Oh, he's gonna come out and become Orthodox any day now. Why is Cleave not talking anymore?" And also, Cleave has made it clear that he wants to address a lot of the former arguments he used to make because he actually feels like it would be detrimental to people to continue to consume his content that he no longer believes anymore. So he wanted to rapidly change about face and just rip the band-aid off, which I totally respect.
Collaborating with Protestant content creators, bolstering Protestantism, while apparently internally he was moving in the opposite direction. And while it is true that there's going to be people that are just salty about his conversion outright, that's not my issue. My issue is that he either very hastily made a rash decision, which would raise all sorts of other concerns, or he was wrestling with this for a while, but he continued publicly posturing as a Protestant apologist. And so I hope he understands why that can come across as confusing for many of us.
It's not confusing at all. You just guys are choosing to ignore the thing he said. um, I was making strong arguments for Protestantism up until I decided no, Orthodoxy is true, and I began seriously inquiring. And I was making very like long Facebook posts, essay length responses, the whole works. Um, and when I decided to become Orthodox, it all kind of vanished right away. So again, I don't find this at all convincing. This is just like moral pearl clutching. This is kind of like him trying to distance himself from Cleave, which is silly.
Two, people have asked me about the vetting of guests on this channel and doing a better job of that. Now, Ben has basically been
Anyone who converts now, I just didn't do a good job vetting. We should have known better. It was kind of the writing was always on the wall. It's just excuses for why Protestant theology is failing. I'm going to skip past this. Will I?
Four, will I be removing the videos that we did together? This is also a no because I want the paper trail to exist of our discussions and some of the things that were said and claimed. Simple as that. Five, this is just a transparency measure. If I ever end up seriously considering converting, and I do not foresee that happening, nor is it even on my radar, but just as a transparency measure, if I ever end up seriously converting or considering converting, I will publicly step away from content creation and submit to my presbyters and others that I have accountability with, and I'll address that with them offline and work through those things, and then come back and make an announcement of where I have landed. Again, I'm not saying I'm doing.
Well, that's what Cleve did. He taught every person that had authority over him in his personal life, his senior pastor included. He talked about through the entire process. I mean, this is just silly. It really, really is just silly.
Doing this, but I want people to know. Last one, lots of people have asked, does this shake my faith in Protestantism? And no, not in the least bit. Having listened to Ben's publicly stated reasons, I wasn't moved in the slightest.
Well, it wasn't like he gave a robust, like consistent, like a thorough essay length thing. He gave some general reasons, but he did make it clear that there were a lot of arguments that were starting to make sense, more and more sense to him, and there were a lot of walls already breaking down. And he made that public even in the discussions that he had been having with Protestants. So it's very clear that this is just kind of he's just finding reasons to just dismiss Cleave now, so that he never has to interact with any of Cleave's content anymore. He never has to address anything Cleave argues or says. That's what I'm getting from this, and I was hoping he would actually make arguments, and I'm not going to waste my time.
You know your business.
Lord have mercy. All right, so we're going to listen to what he has to say.
Content channel. There's enough of that out there. We don't need any more of that. I understand that's what gets clicks. I understand that that is what a lot of people are fishing for so that they can get the clips and it can go viral. And that's not what I'm about here, okay? It's not going to be dumpster fire response drama content channel. I am committed to the stated mission of this outlet. And if you're from an evangelical or non-denom background, my hope is that you'll be compelled to embrace confessional Protestantism.
But why? There's no reason to accept confessional Protestantism. And by the way, he's just dumping on anybody that does response videos because he doesn't like the idea of having to actually address arguments. He's just going to keep on making his videos jabbing without ever having to address or debate any of these issues. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. When you don't have any accountability, this is why Protestants are running for the hills. Cleave was actually engaging with us. He was one of the few people, and you're not, by the way. He's actually engaging with our apologists who have, in real time, the ability to push back. He engaged with priests, people like Jay Dyer, people like Father Moses, Father Spiridon, Father Seraphim, and all these other various apologists, including PhD scholars. He engaged with us. Craig Truglia. And look what happened. That's because when over and over and over again, your arguments keep on getting parried in real time, it's difficult for you to continue this up. Now, you preface this by saying, well, my street evangelism time made it so that this would never affect me. That's just not true. Again, I know how street evangelism works in reformed circles. It is cookie cutter boxed responses that are supposed to lead a person's conscience to a specific point so that you can get them to open up their heart to you, to preaching the gospel. That's it. It's not addressing, like, you're not going out there and addressing like deep theological like arguments that are going to be like fundamentally shake your faith in a formal debate setting. It's just not the same, and you know that. So I'm very unimpressed with Canon and Creed's response here, which is basically, I disavow everything about Cleave now, and I should have known better. That's essentially what his video is. So that's it. This is going to go up on the channel, and you guys will see it. If you want to support me, see down below, or get a membership, or whatever else you guys want to do, super chat, super stickers, and let me know what you want me to respond to next. God bless.